Well, build my gallows and build them high. Makes a long time climbing before I die. I want the chance.
Hello everybody, welcome to Longbangers in association with Lee Spirits and May.
Good evening, I'm Colin.
Hiya, I'm John.
And are you both having an enjoyable Father's Day?
Yep.
It's been
Yep.
alright.
Still had to make dinner, it should be a bit annoying, but that's because my dogs
Aye.
are all lazy as fuck.
Well, I think I want to say to that. That's hard lines, commiserations. I suppose before we go into the meat and bones of the episode tonight was a commiserations from the podcast to the family and friends of Tam McCourt as well, who sadly passed away as well. The notification that came through this morning. So everybody at Longbangers is very sorry to hear that, and as I say, pass on our condolences to Tam's friends and family. Right, on tonight's episode, or this morning's episode, depending on when you're consuming it, we're going to talk about a couple of player exits at Hibs. So Dylan Tate has left to join Falkirk, and Murray Johnson has gone for a season-long loan at Airdrie. No incoming signings yet, so we'll have a wee chat about what we think we might see this week. And then, of course, Scotland are at the Euros, and the Euros kicked off on Friday. So we'll have a wee chat about that game as well. I know that many folk will be wanting to relive much of that. But let's start with the Hibs then. John, Dylan Tate going away to Falkirk. Any surprises there for you?
No. I don't. I was trying to remember. Have we actually seen him play in a Hibs shirt, or has he been
Not
out
a
on loan?
competitive match. Not a competitive.
Friendly, was it played against Norwich? Was it Norwich we played? They got second half, I think. Really good, to be fair, when it came on in that game.
I can't remember if he played any League Cup games or that. And I say non-competitive. Definitely not a league game though. He might have played in the League Cup groups. I'm not sure.
Yeah, one of those players. I think. Can you remind me, see players like Dylan Tate, were they brought into Hibs as kind of like promising but not quite ready for the first team, and they were going to play out on loan somewhere, and then once they completed their loan, they were to come and play for the Hibs first team?
That's not how I took it, and I could be wrong. That's not how I took it, because he came in as Raith Rovers, one of Raith Rovers' best players. So if we're putting players out on loan, they're generally I'm not sure what league Raith were in. They might have not been in the Championship right enough, but it's about the level we send players on loan to.
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost like we've got an achieving player from the player. Why would we have loaned them to a similar club? So I took it he was coming in to challenge for a first team place. They've had that development thing on the go as well. So fuck knows. Now look at what that development team is all about.
So Tate came in slightly before the development team kicked off in earnest. Because if you remember, one of the questions we asked Ron Gordon, remember when we didn't ask any challenging questions to Ron Gordon? The first question, I think, that we asked, in fact, two questions we asked. The first one was about having somebody competent in charge of recruitment because he'd put his son in there. And the second one was about Dylan Tate and Dan Mackay and whether they were examples of the transfer policy failing. I think that was the second question that we asked, and Ron Gordon went on quite like a defensive answer. So he had a plan in place for Tate and Mackay, and they were going to do X, Y, and Z, and eventually come into the first team. He never came into the first team, did he? He went to Kilmarnock on loan, but they started off. Raith wanted to keep him, so the deal that we did with Raith to sign him was that he stayed at Raith till the end of that season. Came to Hibs, we loaned him out to Kilmarnock. Where did he go after that? Did he go to?
He couldn't go back to Raith, remember? He went.
Hold on.
Raith.
Kilmarnock, and then he was loaned to Arbroath and Hamilton, and then Falkirk. So he kind of kicked around the lower leagues. One of the Kilmarnock podcasts tweeted us to say that it was his attitude that was the problem when he was there. So I don't know if maybe that was what did for him at Hibs. But do you see Dan Mackay going down a similar route?
Aye, definitely. And I think he came in a similar. Again, he wasn't. I don't think he was coming in as somebody who go on loan, or was it Inverness we got him from?
Yeah.
Yes, it was.
Aye. So we got him for Inverness, and we weren't bringing him in to send him out on loan to Airdrie. You know what I mean? It was he was coming in to challenge for the first team and that, and played a few games pre-season, and none of the managers, because I can't even remember which one was in charge when they signed. None
I
of them
think
that have been here have fancied them, either of them.
did Mackay scored against Arsenal, I think I'm right in saying, and then there was a European game after that where
He
I
missed a
think
sitter, didn't
he should have scored but didn't, and then he just kind of drifted away after that. And I thought, I'm trying to strike an optimistic tone because I believe I've not actually read Hibs.net, but I believe that folk are having a bit of a dig at my negativity. But I think the difference between Mackay and Tate possibly is that Mackay, when he was away on loan, back at Inverness, he scored against Celtic in the cup final when he's been. He then went to Livy and he was playing a few games there. I think in each of those spells he's been impacted a little bit by injury.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's still maybe a smidgen of an opportunity for him at Hibs.
He got that green light when John picked him, remember, in his team a couple of weeks ago.
Aye.
And we went, Mackay.
Aye. And you had Boyle or Mackay. You saw both of our faces going, what? But we got the point you were making in the end. I think we got there. Money Johnson.
It was a highlight of his Hibs career, though. Like,
well, I get picked for John. It's the highlight of anybody's career, isn't it? Really?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm like the champion of the lost cause.
Money Johnson out to Airdrie again. So he had been out on loan to Airdrie. We recalled him last season.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, no European football this season for Hibs, so no need to have 40 goalkeepers or whatever it is you're required to have on the bench for European games. Colin, you surprised to see him move given the keepers we've got at the club?
No, I think he's had a lost season there because he got recalled. What was it? Must have been August for the, and I think the idea was to sit on the bench while who got injured? Was it Wallacott got injured and Marshall both got injured?
They both got injured, yeah.
And Boric played, and they brought Johnson back to be one of the guys on the bench, and they either got injured again before the window shut, like they were back fit. So everybody thought, we'll go back out and loan to Airdrie now. But I think somebody then got injured again just before the window. So he got kept and then he never played any minutes. So I think effectively it's been a waste of a season for him because he should have been playing for Airdrie all the last season. So if we thought he needed to go on loan last season to get minutes, suggests he's not ready. He's not done any minutes. So why would he be ready now? So no, I'm not surprised. Was that the question?
I think so. Yeah. Or was that a good move? One of those.
It's a good move for him.
Yeah.
It's good for him because Airdrie's a good side and they play well. And Megwin's done well there, and I think Aiken was doing well there. I don't know much about O'Connor. I think he done okay for a bit as well there. So it's a young manager, progressive ideas and all that I've read, but
yeah,
he's a goalie, so like he's not got to. He just needs minutes. Just needs to actually play and make mistakes and get these mistakes out of him, I suppose.
John, the history of goalkeepers coming through at Hibs is not really stellar. Like if you look at Ross, Laidlaw was probably the last one, or Dabrowski had a similar kind of career. They were breaking through. They went out on loan. Folk talked about them maybe making an impression, and then when it kind of got to the point where they should be in the first team, we brought in experience and moved them out. What does Murray Johnson need to do to get a chance at Hibs?
I don't know. Like the question that you first asked there was about the goalkeeper situation. I had to try and rack my brains to understand what the goalkeeper situation is. Is it just Wallacott at the moment? And Boric, but like Boric is, I don't know what the chat is with his, because he was on loan at Arbroath. Does he come back to Hibs and go ahead of Johnson in the pecking order?
I don't know. I don't know whether they see him as like the youth team keeper. I don't know. I don't know what the plans are. Like it's kind of just speculation, isn't it? Like at this point, whether he goes in as backup or like we don't know. We don't know yet whether Wallacott will start as a number one or whether we're going to bring in somebody to take that position.
I think the question that you asked applies more than just the goalkeeping position at Hibs. Like, how do Hibs youngsters break into the first team? So you mentioned there Dabrowski. Like Johnson's situation is kind of similar. That Marshall's retired, Walcott hasn't been great, and you think, well, there's an opportunity for a young Hibs keeper to get an opportunity. And I appreciate Colin's point about getting the mistakes out of the system somewhere else, but players are always going to make mistakes. There's always going to be goals that occur.
Yeah.
So why does he not do that at Hibs?
I know I gave you to an extent. I just wonder if he had been at Airdrie all last season, that might have been. It's almost like sliding doors stuff. It's
that maybe ties into the conversation that we're going to have in the extra time episode where we cover Malky Mackay's 2 interviews and the state of the squad. Like, is it going to be a case that Walcott's going to be our number one for this season, and then we bring Johnson back from his loan at Airdrie, or is it another keeper that spends a year between the sticks at Easter Road and then we bring Johnson back?
Interesting, eh? Because I don't know the answer to it. I think goalkeepers it's one of those positions where, unless they're properly exceptional keepers, managers up and down the leagues tend to be reluctant to play a young keeper. It tends to be that they go for sort of mid to late 20s before they sort of get to establish themselves as a first team keeper. If indeed they do, because there's loads of keepers that kick about as number twos for their career.
That's what I was going to say.
Choice.
Like, I'm not especially familiar with Walcott's career, but if you look at the previous keeper that we had, that we signed from elsewhere, Matt Basie, like, was he third, fourth choice at Arsenal?
Mm-hmm.
Like, why are we putting more faith in those players than guys that are coming through the books at Easter Road?
Yeah, it's almost like that. Goalies seem to come through the system and then have to move on to make their name somewhere else. Then you rarely get a goalie coming through. I think Gordon at Hearts is obviously an exception to the rule, but other than that, like, they always seem to have to go somewhere. Even McGregor at Rangers, was he at Dunfermline and that before? You know, it's like there's hardly ever a goalie comes through a youth team anywhere and is a first choice keeper.
It's interesting.
It does happen, obviously. Like, before I get, but you know what I mean. It's like I'd guess it's like less than 5%. Just a total guess.
Aye, it does seem to be the exception rather than the rule. On the subject of recruitment, so no new signings yet. Are you expecting to see anybody coming in next week? I think David Gray's back from holiday now, or is back by the start of the week. So, John, do you expect to see any movement on that front?
I don't know. In the next week, I'd hope so. Like, you'd like to see some changes, faces in and faces out, because of the way that the squad is at the moment. But whether it happens in the next week, like, I'm not too concerned if it doesn't happen in the next week, because it doesn't. I know that some folk will start to get antsy and they'll be seeing the messages and the tweets and whatever, giving Hibs the poke with the stick as if to say, come on, do something. But I'm reasonably relaxed about it at the moment. If it was still, a week before the season's due to kick off and there's no new players coming, then you start to worry.
Pre-season starts next week, though, doesn't it? I think I read somewhere or heard somewhere it was the 21st.
Yeah.
They're back, so I think it was the 21st. That sounds midweek, though. So I don't know. But if they're back then, you'd like to get them in soon after that.
24th.
But I was reading it.
Week commencing 24th,
there's
a back.
So that's a Monday, a week on Monday. Still, so it's only a week. So I'd like to think we'd have some in. I don't expect not to be completed on that day, but you want to get them in early so David Gray can start working with them on, like, the first week will be a bit of fitness and that. But I think they do a lot of ball work and that anyway. But then they'll start getting into style of plays and all that kind of stuff. You want them in early so that their time to settle is in pre-season rather than in the first fucking
make friends with their new teammates.
Aye.
Get out and get pushed and all that stuff that you do.
On the subject of recruitment, former director of football, or soon to be former director of football, Brian McDermott is moving on. That was confirmed this week. His contract is up at the end of June. I suppose again, we'll just keep asking you if he's surprised at everything. That sounds like you have no forethought. Like, if that's the question I'm asking, is that surprising news? Like, do you guys not think of anything? What were your thoughts, Colin, about the news then that Ryan McDermott's moving on?
I expected that, so I was not surprised. Because I think I half joked at it before, although we started talking about having. Did we not say it last week? We've got Mackay, we've got Marshall, we've got more admin guys than we have coaches now. But I think Mackay's interview when he came in, or before he came in, but before the Motherwell game, I think he'd done that interview, and Adam Thomason asked him about Brian McDermott, and it was like he thought, "Oh fuck, I'll need to deal with that." Like it was almost like
him. Aye.
So that was how I took that part of the interview. It was almost like, did you not tell him the questions before you were to ask him? Because the way he reacted to it, it was like, oh fuck, aye. So I wasn't surprised, and that was going back to before the end of the season, based on his reaction to the question.
I thought his reaction was in contrast to Ben Kensel. So when Ben Kensel was talking about Malcolm Mackay coming on board, he was asked about Brian McDermott. He sort of indicated that he would be moving more to a sort of recruitment focused role, almost like a head of recruitment was the way that he sort of positioned it. Whereas, and I'll paraphrase because I can't remember the exact word, but Malcolm Mackay's words were like, "We'll need to have a conversation, but it's about having the right people in the right places," which is very much like a kind of that probably isn't going to be here. Do you know? But I wanted to say that we're moving them on. John, what do you think of the job that Brian McDermott did at Hibs over the year that he was at the club?
Are you asking me? What did he? When he came in, like I remember reading an article that said that he was meant to be like a sort of, wasn't he quite father figure, but almost like a mentor for Nick Montgomery and
Lee Johnson, it was at the time.
Oh, was it Lee Johnson?
Yeah.
All right, okay. Just shows you how quickly we go through managers, eh? So there was definitely a bit of chat about being a mentor and being like someone who took a bit of the shit was the way that I remembered it, like on behalf of the manager, like protecting the manager from certain things to allow them to do their job. I think the director of football stuff, there was a suggestion that he was going to have an influence on transfers. I know that you've suggested that some of the January transfer window signings that we made could be credited to McDermott. But overall, we kind of came away like not knowing entirely what it was that Brian McDermott done. So to your original question as well that you asked Colin about whether he was surprised, like he surely couldn't have continued in that role for Hibs when it didn't seem like he really had a job to do. However, he was very complimentary in his LinkedIn post where he was thanking everyone for what they'd done and talked about how things off the pitch, things on the pitch hadn't been to everyone's liking, but there was lots of fantastic work taking place off the behind the scenes, which seems to be like a similar theme. Everyone seems to think that Hibs are going places. We're just not seeing it yet.
What do you think of the recruitment under, in the time that Brian McDermott was here? Would you give him a pass or I don't know, a score at 15?
I think it's probably reasonably high. So if we go through, he was here when Venti signed, right? Who maybe hasn't quite hit the mark, but I think most people can see there's something there, right? It's maybe not being used correctly or partnered correctly or whatever. He's taken a few. He looks a good finisher when he gets in the positions, right? So that's decent. Melida he was one of his signings. But then you've got other ones there as well, that like give me some names. I can't think. Marconde's right. Look good in flashes. Didn't really provide enough.
Are also not here anymore.
Amos.
Aye, Mariah Welsh and Amos are two that brought, but that will be here next season.
And they're hard to judge because they were quite late on. And Mariah Welsh looked decent again in flashes. Amos no seen, so I can't really comment. But I guess I'd say over 10 out of 15.
John, would you go along with that?
Aye. I mean, aye. There was definitely good players there. Like I think Melida was probably the pick of the bunch, and I think perhaps circumstances prevented the other ones excelling as much as they would have liked. So Amos, I think he picked up a hamstring injury after his first couple of games. Venti found himself injured, lacking that other partner. So I like 10.
And Bevan, whenever
seems reasonable.
It's hard to see as well. He might come in this season and we'll go, fucking hell, imagine if I'd had him for the last 6 months. Who knows? Bit unknown though, because it's a lot of the minutes they got in that. It's hard to judge. So it's really hard to say. 10's feeling a wee bit high. It's definitely over. I'd say pass marks. So 8, definitely 8.
Okay. Next question I have for you is both. Right, there's a thread on Hibs.net started by a friend of the podcast, Gogs, which was about head of recruitment. It's sort of suggesting that now that Brian McDermott's moved on, do Hibs need a head of recruitment to come in and fill that space? So Ian Gordon had been head of recruitment, is no longer head of recruitment, replaced by director of football Brian McDermott. That no longer exists. So is it Malcolm Mackay's job? Is it David Marshall's job? Or do we need a specific accountable Gadget in charge of recruitment? John, I'll come to you first. What do you think?
I mean, I think based on what Malcolm Mackay was saying in his interview with Observer, I think it falls on his shoulders.
Right? Why? What makes you say that?
Because he described the players that needs to move out and also get players in to replace them.
I think
that's my recollection.
Yeah, ultimately responsible. But the way I took it, he was talking about David Marshall would have some input into it, but they're also reshuffling the recruitment team. But they might report to Marshall, who then reports to Mackay. I don't know if they're just layering in. I don't know. It'd be quite interesting to see a structure chart, some sort. But it feels like that. I don't know if they're layering middle management in here. But it was a shuffle of the recruitment rather than a head of recruitment. But then Marshall was mentioned, and as I say, I think Mackay is, like John's saying, ultimately accountable for it all, isn't he? He's in charge of all of it. But he might have somebody. I think it's Marshall, based on what I was reading.
So I will touch on this when we record extra time. Malcolm Mackay said we need to have a structure that works, making sure that there are reporting lines and that it's not a scattergun approach. Ultimately, everything ends up through a technical board, which I will lead. Myself, the head coach, David Marshall, and the recruitment team, which we're still in the process of moving around.
Moving around. That was
I don't know what I don't know what it'll look like in the end. I think recruitment is such an important part of what's going wrong that we need somebody like specific. Like I wouldn't want it to be part of somebody's wider job where they're looking at recruitment and another 3 or 4 departments. I would want to see somebody that was like, you're the head of that bit and that's what your sole focus is. But I don't know if we can afford that.
I think that's probably pretty relevant because if I remember rightly for that article, Malcolm Mackay made the point that the manager, like it's not feasible for the manager to be out to various different games throughout a week to be scouting players, etc. So if he doesn't have the time, do we need to get someone else in who, like you say, whose job is primarily dedicated to scouting and identifying targets for the first team?
I think so, or at least coordinating the scouts that happen. You know, whether it's not them or you would imagine is the short list and get it down. I think Malky had referenced maybe like having 3 players to take to the manager or the head coach to say, "There's 3. Who do you fancy?" And we'll try and get like the top targets. But as it starts to shortlist like that, you would want to have the senior folk who are making the decisions having eyes on the players like live to kind of get a sense of whether they're actually good enough rather than doing it all through the video analysis. Interesting to hear what folks' thoughts are as well. Like if you've got any views on that, you can get in touch with us. Just tweet us and we'll cover it later. What I did like about that thread, especially, and these are just the sort of things that tickles me, is Gogs had kind of set out quite a big opener about should we have one and here's all the reason. And just the first answer was that no. So, they fucking about, just straight, nah. But there's no explanation, nothing. Things like that make me laugh. Right, Scotland. Did you both see the game on Friday night?
Yep.
Colin, what went wrong? Should we just have been better?
It would have been good to have been better. I think we would have still lost, but it would have been good to have actually put a bit of a fight into it. The way it looked like we were, like considering we've got players, like our best players, all play in the English league, and we talk them up. McGinn, McTominay, Robertson. I think I've missed somebody out. But anyway, they 3, right? And then you look at it and you go, they weren't getting, like, see when we were banging the ball into midfield to get rid of it for the back, like their first touch was nothing compared to what the Germans' first touch was. And you think, like, technically they were, like, I know they're better, right? I know the Germans are better. Germans are be one of the top 4 teams in the tournament. But we've got players there that would probably aspire to be at that level. You know, like, they're not miles off it, or they shouldn't be miles off it if they're playing for Liverpool and Villa in the Champions League and all that. Otherwise, they're going to get embarrassed in the Champions League against Munich and Leverkusen and that. And they just look miles off it. They weren't getting near them. They weren't even like getting to put a late tackle in because they were that far off it. And I was just like, that's what I was disappointed with. It's fair enough you go, we've got a third choice right back playing. So we shouldn't leave him exposed like that.
Yeah.
Right. But we chose to do that. We'll play 4 centre midfielders in the middle, nobody coming out wide. Leave the wide men who were there danger men, according to the boys in the telly. I didn't ken German football, but I'm watching them on the telly and they're saying, oh, they've got 2 young laddies, 20 and 21 in the wide areas. Then I watch the game and go, fuck me. That they're against third choice right back that wouldn't have even been in the squad if the other 2 boys were fit. And he's just getting a new one and a championship centre half to help him out, who also got totally shown up as well in that game, like down the right hand side or our right hand side. It was just, we were miles off it. And you know, it's like, oh, play Shankland the next time, and you go, he's not going to get a touch of the ball either, because like Adam's done nothing wrong because there was nothing for him to do. Like the ball wasn't coming that far up. Although I've since seen a bit of analysis that says that it could have been better shutting off their passes at the back and stuff. I've seen it on the BBC yesterday during one of the games. But we were fucking miles off it, which is could have been to be expected. But when you're looking at Man United, Villa, Liverpool on the team sheet, you're thinking we would have got closer, eh?
Aye. I had came one of these build-a-bet things, the free bet, and I had McGinn to make 2 tackles in the game. For John McGinn, 2 tackles in a game against Germany, playing for Scotland. That was a bet. None. None on.
That's amazing, eh? That's amazing because he couldn't get close enough to them.
Aye. And I was like, that's a stick on Kim, and I was kind of building it. Everything else came in, kind of number of corners, goals, cards, etc. And then John McGinn.
What was purchased for a red card?
Oh, I didn't care. Never.
I thought he put that out of his game. Like, you know, I was thinking, I wonder if he's been sent off since he's left Hibs.
It has now. John, what did you think of the red card? Was it the correct decision? It was a wee bit sort of disagreement online. I think most folk thought it was, but not everybody. What did you think?
I thought it was definitely a sending off. I was having a wee look. I didn't want to get involved in the conversation about it because, like you say, like there was a little bit back and forth. I think it was probably about 90-10 in favour of it being a sending off, and I think some of the contention seemed to be around the double jeopardy rule. But I was having a wee look at the rules when you were talking about it, and I think a couple of them were if the player I forget what the exact wording it was, but it was basically if he dives into a challenge. I forget the exact words. It was almost like if he was off the deck, and it was like tick, tick, tick. Purchase was all those things.
Yeah.
He definitely, and I think if nothing else for the wording that I can't remember, if nothing else, he definitely put Gundogan in danger with his challenge. Like, I'm frankly amazed that he never broke his ankle. Like, for whatever reason, like Gundogan's leg just went, nah, I'm not breaking.
Yeah,
just decided it was the.
I wasn't sure about the double jeopardy. I wasn't sure about the double jeopardy though, because he did try and get the ball. Like, and if he hadn't tried to do it, folk would have said he never even fucking attempted a tackle. But he actually attempted a tackle, won the ball. The danger was that he flew in like that. We stood straight up off the ground, all that stuff. But then you go, so does the double jeopardy rule then no apply because it's dangerous? Is that basically what the rule is?
I was going to suggest that the double jeopardy rule that we were talking about, it must allow for other things, because otherwise players would just go in with kamikaze tackles because they know they could get away with it.
Aye, but as I said, what was the game last night? The boy tripped
Spain.
The Spain. It was Rodri. I mean, he made no attempt to play the ball. He's not necessarily tried to clip the boy's heels, but he's fouled the boy. The boy's about to tap the ball into an empty net, and he got a yellow card for it. And I'm like, how does that work? That under the definitions, that should have been a penalty and a red card, but they go double jeopardy, carry get ball full, book him, and it's a penalty. But Porteous one, they just went fucking. I thought it was because is it dangerous when?
That's what I was thinking.
When you're off the ground, kind of the dangerous and reckless. I can never remember which way around is the yellow and the red. But I thought that was probably the category of foul that was made it a red card, irrespective of the penalty being given. It didn't make much difference. We weren't getting back into that game anyway. We were dreadful. John, how do you see the rest of the tournament panning out for Scotland?
I think based on what I saw of Scotland in the qualifying campaign, they are better than what they showed against Germany. So I'd like to think, I never actually saw Switzerland-Hungary, but I'm optimistic of Scotland getting points in one of those games. And I mean, the weight of history is kind of against them in terms of making out of the group, but the weight of history suggested that they weren't going to get results against Norway, Spain, etc. in qualifying. So I'm going to go with the optimism and think it again because of the players that Colin mentioned. I don't think, like in the other two games, I think Hungary are meant to be pretty good, albeit Switzerland beat them. But we were up against what looked like a very good German side.
Aye.
So, and we're not going to come up against that in the next two games. So hopefully that's going to allow us to play more of the game that saw us through the qualifying campaign.
I just hope there's something on the Hungary game. It's next Sunday about this time, eh? Like I think next Sunday night. Then we'll be going into that on no points with no chance of getting out. So I think even if we get a draw on Wednesday night, at least then it's all on that Hungary game.
Aye.
I would be going into it, I think, because it's actually harder to get knocked out than it is to get through. 16 teams out of 24 go through.
Aye. It was the standard Scotland away. I agree with the point you made, Colin, about the players needing to be. It's like they forgot they were good players. That was a bit that threw me. It's like he's a kicker
I can't believe McGinn never made a tackle.
No,
I didn't know that.
He didn't get close to anybody. Like I mean, I'm sure that like everybody will love John McGinn, but he would have been as well no playing. He just had had no impact on the game whatsoever, and some of that was tactical. But I think you've got McGregor, McTominay, who was probably the best out of the three of them in the midfield. But even like Tierney and Robertson didn't do anything. And you know, like Robertson's a Champions League winner. Like he's as good at a level as anybody else on that pitch. And yeah, you just wouldn't be able to tell. Like you say, McGinn top 4 in the Premier League in England, McTominay just outside
Man
that.
United just won the FA Cup, and they all aspire or have played in the Champions League, eh? And that's the level. That's effectively that level.
Yeah,
but they didn't get near them. Not, and that's what I think Keane was saying after the game. Like, just foul some, just like bang somebody.
Aye.
No, like how Porteous done it.
No,
they just leave a bit in, and they never even got. Like the Germans just moved the ball before they were miles off it. Off it.
There was a documentary last night on after the what was the last game that was on last night? I can't remember.
The late game.
The late game, whoever the 8 o'clock game was.
Italy,
yeah. There was a documentary about Rooney at the 2004 Euros where he went and he sort of lit the place up. And he was talking about when they went to play France, and he says, like, all the rest of the team were all scared. He said, I couldn't wait for it. He said, Thuram had said he hadn't heard of me. So I wanted to make sure that basically first chance I got, I'd just smash him. And he did. He kind of showed it. He's like, probably if VAR was in that, would have been a red now. But he was like, I just wanted to make sure that they all knew who I was. And that's the kind of attitude that you need going into these games. No necessarily to smash folk, but to go to make an impact.
He was a young laddie there.
19,
these are experienced
18,
pros
19.
now.
Aye.
But these boys are experienced pros, and I was really not embarrassed isn't the word, but really surprised at how poorly they were, how poorly they showed up.
Aye.
You know, they just never. Guy like McGregor is a player, but I get he plays in Scotland, and maybe that level isn't achieving taking him to a higher level because he's just the best player here. You know, if he went and played in the Premier League, he'd probably be a mid-table team or something until they proved himself. But he was like, there's a couple of tackles he just like tried to nick the ball rather than make the tackle. But then at least I suppose he was fucking there to try and nick the ball, whereas the other ones were miles off it. And I do think, I don't know what they change on Wednesday night because Gilmore obviously sat the game out. We've not even mentioned Christie. He again, what the fuck was he even starting for? You know, like Gilmore and McGregor, and at least then they might have a chance of getting the ball and keeping the head of it because that's what they're good at. Like, because we couldn't, all we were doing was knocking it about the back, like what you've got to do now, because that's what you get told on the A licence course or pro licence. And then it would come to Porteous and he would just fuck it in the midfield, and the Germans would go, cheers, we'll just start again now. You're like, what are we doing? Like, this is fucking dire. Is this the plan?
It didn't. The way that we lined up, the way that we were playing, didn't bear much relation to the games that I saw during the qualifying campaign, and I wonder if we fell into that trap of we're up against Germany, so we're going to play really, really defensively and try and sneak it 1-0, and they were just like you say, they just went thanks very much and just steamrolled us. And we didn't really. It was almost like even after the first and the second goal went in, we didn't have an answer to change it at that point. So, and like I say, we're not going to come up against a Germany where we shit ourselves. Hopefully, we go out again. I don't know who the next game is. Is it Switzerland?
Yeah.
So hopefully we go out and we actually go and try and play the way that we played throughout the qualifying.
They're now going out thinking we win this game, that's us through. It doesn't matter about the Germany game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just so.
I think that's the difficulty with the way that you play the first game in these tournaments, because I think throughout the last sort of 3-4 European Championships and World Cups, there's been teams like Germany, France, who have tried not to get beat in the first game, and then they found themselves having a shiter in the second one, and suddenly, fuck, we're out.
It looks like a good laugh, really. When we see out the Tartan Army there, it looks fucking brilliant. Kind of proper fear of missing out. Kind of watching it and going, fucking hell, that would have been class. Anyway.
It would have been, but Kim, it wouldn't have been. See, if we got beat like that, I would have been home after the game. Like, all that more stuff. No, I would have been back in the hotel. I would have been going, I'll come out the morning again. I'm not staying out celebrating the night after an absolute fucking embarrassing display like that. And I know Germany would expect it to win. I know they're a better team, but fucking humiliated. That's how I would have felt.
Good news. Right, that'll do us tonight. If you want more Hibs content, we will be back with extra time for subscribers tomorrow night. We're going to be kind of doing a deep dive on the Malcolm Mackay interview that's in the Hibs Observer. Excellent interview. I would heartily recommend you go and have a read of it. I'm sure they've got some sort of subscription offer on there now as well, if you don't want to spend loads of money. In the meantime, thanks for tuning in, and we will see you next time.
Well, they trailed me down when I broke free. I drank all the whiskey in Tennessee. I don't drink what I know.